Greetings, greetings, greetings. Happy hump day. This is the hump day. I was going to come, this is Deanne from the Melanin Report 360, the Melanin Report 360, the Melanin Report 360, representing my hometown of home state of Brooklyn in the Empire State of New York. I'm coming at you live. I wanted to come on at 7. I wanted to try to stick with a time, and fortunately or unfortunately, my contractor came over unexpectedly, and he's trying to give a quote to my neighbor and this and that. So he had to get some tools and blah, blah, blah. So that was the delay this evening. So I'm going to try my very best, 7 o'clock 7 o'clock Mountain Standard Time, 9 o'clock Eastern. Okay. So I hope everyone had a wonderful day. I had a great day. Went to LA Fitness, had a great workout, and ran a few errands, and just a beautiful day here in the Valley. My goodness. There was a report I read not too long ago that said in 70 years, it was like 20, it was 1 year, it was like 60 or 70 years, Phoenix will not be inhabitable because it'll be so much heat in the area. People would have to live here only part of the year in the winter months. So that's interesting. I don't know if I will still be here in 70 years. You never know. But that was an interesting report. And so I had a few minutes to watch the guy who lied in state. I forget his name. I don't want to give the wrong name, but you know who I'm talking about. The guy who was the officer who was killed during the domestic terrorist act of the 6th of January. So like 4 weeks ago exactly to the day. So I just had mixed feelings on that. So let me read my fair use disclaimer because we like to keep everything organized and in check. So fair use. Yeah, my fair use. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that may otherwise be infringing. So here we go. I had a few mixed feelings around that because not too many people lay in state, if you will. I guess this guy should have been, because he died, or his injuries led to his death on the 6th of January. So theoretically, that would be a reason for the person or persons to, under those circumstances, on their watch and was working. And so I guess that in theory, that makes sense. He died not so much at the scene, but his injuries, I think he was 42, 43. He was quite a bit younger than me. So, probably had a family and all like that. So it had a ripple effect, because even, I think I was watching to one of the networks, and he's seen, I think it was John King, whatever network he's on. So he seemed really like shaken a little bit for the standard of news reporting, because that's like right in your face, because people died that day, you know. So at least, let's see, I think 6 people total. There was a lady that went, well, a lady that went, I don't know if the police shot her, and I don't know, but I don't want to misspeak, but I know there were at least total of 6 people during that finite amount of time. I don't know how long that was, because they were very, very strategic and not shooting and asking questions later, which if brown and black people, that would have been the case. So we always know that. So this is like the reason for my talk tonight, and I'm going to get into, the book, not my book, but another book that speaks to this. But we see such difference, such difference, such difference. It just doesn't even make sense, because theoretically, all men are created equal. That's what we have read. This is in our, it's so many places, but the practice, that is not the case. That is not the case. That has never been the case. If that were so, why did they have to enslave us for, 50 years, 300, I mean, 30 years, 20 years? Okay, we shouldn't do this. The spirit of the man is what you lend yourself to doing, the heartbeat of the person, the spirit of the person. So for so many hundreds of years, this was the reality of our people. And so, with that said, this was a system that theoretically took a long time to correct itself. And with correcting itself, Lincoln, obviously, my I think I mentioned before, my paternal grandparents were Republicans, and a lot of they were born in the Carolinas, which our roots are there, North Carolina specifically, and they voted. They were, diehard Republicans. My grandparents were diehard Republicans, because theoretically, Lincoln freed the slaves. So on their watch, that was the more progressive party at that time. We don't even recognize the Republican Party. We barely recognize the Democratic Party. So we'll get into that perhaps tonight, if not tomorrow night. But this is where we are as a people, of seeing that action on the 6th. There's always a reason, because it was no more than black. It was definitely black and white, because we saw the treatment of mostly Caucasian men and women, majority, a sprinkle of black folks. I'm not trying to say there was none, but overwhelmingly, I'd say 95%, or 99% probably Caucasian. Always time for water. Thank you for bearing with me, because it was pretty hot today. It was really, really a hot one. Like I don't want to say 90. It was in the no, 83. I think that was another record, 83. But it's gonna cool down tomorrow, thank goodness, because I'm not even turning on the AC. It's not even that time. I've got 6 more weeks of that because once it comes on, it's running, nonstop. So I will take a breath on not putting the AC on. I didn't. I just did having the windows open. So that was enough. But anyway, I digress. So when you see the apparent treatment or lack thereof, like police were like, "What is a gun? Where is it on my body? I don't even see one," because in their mind that was another Caucasian, and so they. I mean, one lady was shot. I do know that, and her injuries, it led to her death. Um, but majority of them, some of the officers just opened up the gate, apparently. So this is where we are. This is the climate in which we have lived and are living nonstop. So, this does stuff to your psyche, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, well, all areas. And because nothing, we're not let up. It's not like, okay, we only practice racism Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and we don't practice it on Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, or Sunday. So it's just constant. It's a constant action and a reminder who we are. Theoretically, we have places throughout the Constitution, various places. We are all created equal. Is that the case? Is that the case? If that is the case, please contact me because I don't. In my 57 years on this planet, I don't see that. I think I definitely looks 57 by the head, but I think the skin is holding up. But anyway, just looking at myself, well, not too bad, but mixed gray is here. So, I just teasing myself. But, it's sad. It's sad because my theory is if they had gone over to the motherland and said, hey, we got this land, let's go over and build it and help each other build it up. I think that would be a different reality. People would be people, will be people, will be people. So we wouldn't have to have all these Bill of Rights and this and that. Think of it, Bill of Rights, rights. So with that said, a group is not being treated fairly, just in the language, Bill of Rights. So there was a group, I mean, even white men would be able to vote, not even women, white women. So this country has, hmm, I think if you're paying attention, you should be outraged if you are paying attention. Now, you living in a bubble, you're not going to be outraged. But a lot of times people kind of go along, get along, go along, get along, or something like that. But it's just so tragic because once the wrongs were corrected, there should be reparations, number one. Because there's no ever a group of people that have been mistreated on this planet and they live to tell the story. I don't want to make it sound like that, but they corrected it. They corrected it. So with all the handouts, where's our handout? you know, and not a handout. Let me cancel that. Cancel. So This is what my ancestors built this country. Okay. They probably picked tobacco because we were down in North Carolina. Tobacco was big. I think South Carolina was rice. But what I'm saying to you is this country would not be at the standing that it is. And we'll get to that in a minute. But it would not be at the standing that it is if it was off the backs of enslavement. So, knowing that, how is this country? I brought this up maybe 2 days ago, maybe on Sunday or Monday. I brought up the fact that if until you do right by me, the silly conversation with Mr., this is coming to pass. This is coming to pass. So, the fact that this country, in and of itself, is not running smoothly, it's not running peacefully, me casa, tu casa energy, it's none of that. Why? Why have you ever thought why? So the fact that this country was built off of the backs and the bodies of enslaved people, our enslaved. They went across not across the pond, but across the globe, grabbed us, brought us back in bondage, enslaved. And this is what we get, 400 or 500 years later? This country is teetering, I don't want to say demise, but spiritual division, spiritual economic plight. There's just so many things that could be corrected at a swipe of a pen. And with that, I mean, if you do right by African Americans, melanated people, etc., descendants of slaves. I am a descendant of slaves. I did the DNA. I know my regions in Africa. I came from Nigeria and Mali. There's some European there, very small, maybe 20%. But theoretically, I am like 75 to 80% African. And you can trace my DNA back to certain communities in the motherland. So, but when you do that, if this country tomorrow would make a decision to say, to apologize, apparently Clinton may have said something to the apology level, maybe under his breath. I just don't remember the situation. It just seems like it's in my mind that he did apologize for slavery. I don't know that to be true. So perhaps he did. I'm not going to say he didn't, but perhaps he did. So if they did that one action of writing, no amount of money would suffice. But let's just say any person over, let's just say 25 or 35 or whatever number, if you can trace your DNA back, blah, 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 you get like $1.5 million, $2 million. Okay. This is only 35, at 40 million Africans in this country, Black folks in this country. That's a drop in the bucket, to say we did wrong and we will do the repair. We will repair your people. But see, they're not willing to do that. So when you're not willing to do that, you're sending a spiritual connection. And then you still have racial bias. You still have, in fact, I saw something very disturbing. I'm back kind of on Facebook, and I looked at some clips this morning, and there was a lady of California. You all may have seen it, and apparently her son had did not stop. Had came to a full stop, did not stop, did a rolling stop, as most of us do. But he's probably in his 20s because the mother probably was in her 40s or 50s, and her and his father was there. He was recording it. You all may have seen this. This probably was maybe last week or something. And it was a female police officer who had her hand on her gun. And, the mother was like, he is not going to be another hashtag. You are not taking my son. She's like, mother bear, she's going toe to toe saying, but like, if he didn't move, he definitely didn't move. And he was stopped in front of his house. So apparently wasn't able to get on private property, their property, and they own their own home. And this was California. I don't know what part of California. It was just, a little small town in California. And so this continues. This isn't helping this country, because every action, there's a reaction, there's a response, there's a spiritual response and an emotional response, because they've had our foot on our necks for so long. And these little police officers that are trying to do, quote unquote, I'm just doing my job kind of thing, it's going into the bucket of, are you really doing this to this child? This is a young man. This is what you really want to do. And so there's a choice. There's a conscious choice in this country. When we hear about that, when we see the, Breonna Taylor stories, we see, there's so many. The one that was very, very upsetting to me, Breonna Taylor, well, it was just so many, but the one, Sandra Bland, Sandra Bland. So this is where we are. If this country made it right, I'm sure COVID would go away. I might be stretching, but COVID would be, because you're putting energy now, you're balancing the scale of Ma'at. You know about the scale of Ma'at. So we just see this and say, we see it time in, time out, time in, time out, time in, time out. And it just depletes our energy, because we know we're not living in a just and fair society, and when it peaks now with the COVID and everything, people are still racist and crazy. You should be able to say, well, it's peace and love, or some kind of reverence, and not feeling so threatened. This lady had her hand on her weapon, back to the Facebook post. So this is disgusting. This is not doing what this country needs to do to balance the scale, to make it right. They're continuing the same behavior, the same behavior, the same behavior. And enough is enough. The spirit realm is like, you ain't gonna continue to do that to the original Black in black women? Oh, no, 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 no. The melanated people that got you all here? Uh-uh. Mm-mm. So we are the original people? Who does that? Who does that to the mother and father of civilization? So, I'm sure if they correct itself, probably be a flat line on the increase of COVID because you're making a wrong right. You are, you know, that's what there should be a spiritual department in the White House. They should have shaman, women, and the like that oh yeah, Nancy Reagan had a psychic. So I don't know if she was on staff and was paid, but she had a personal psychic. So I believe there's something like that should be done with this new administration because, some astrological is in play. There's a lot of stuff going on astrologically. And there's so many levels of to spirituality, to developmental acuity. So it's not like, we live, we die, we move on. I mean, there's so many dimensions to this whole thing. And it saddens me because people young enough to be my children. And, it's Freddie Gray or somebody Gray. I think Freddie Gray. And I think his body, they did something to his neck. They're fascinated with the neck, obviously, from enslavement. So the black neck, foot on the neck, a few years later, when I think it was Freddie Gray, he was in the hands of the police and he went brain. I know they showed the live video, and whatever they did, his body became limp. And I knew that automatically something happened where his body, went limp, and that was it. And when they took him to the hospital, I mean, he was pretty much brain dead. So this is where we are, which leads me to, man, I'm going a little bit longer, but this is a book that came out. I want to say I looked it up. I think I read part of this book, but I haven't finished it. So I'm probably going to have to reread it. This book came out in 1992, almost 30 years ago. Is that right? 92, 02, 22? Well, yeah, almost 30 years ago, 1992. So this book is entitled Two Nations, Black and White, Separate, Hostile, Unequal. This is the book. I don't know this family. I don't know Andrew Hacker personally. But he wrote this 30 years ago. I have a lot of books, and I think I may need to read this again. So Race and Racism, that's the first, no, that's not the first chapter, Deanne. Let me get past the preface. Dividing American Society, first chapter. And then it goes on to race and racism, white responses. I mean, I think this is going to be my next book. I'm working on another book, but on wheatgrass. I want to maybe incorporate this. But this is a book that was written 30 years ago. 92. Okay. 02, 12. Yeah. In a year, it's going to be 30 years. So interesting. So, this is where we are. I just definitely want to mention this book because Andrew Hacker was a white, I believe he's a was, I don't think he's still on this side. He understood at some level the plight of our people. Andrew Hacker. He has a few other books. But I just want to lift this book up because it's amazing that we stay as calm as we do. We stay as calm, peaceful. People need to see the humanity of our folks. They just don't see it. It just, as soon as you present yourself, you don't even have to say anything. They've already sized you up, And this is based on this book. And I think this is a New York Times bestseller. And this was back in 1992. The same year, this book came out, Dr. Welsing, the ISIS paper came out the same year. But, we've had enough. You have to find the balance of the scale of Ma'at because it's always in place. The scale of Ma'at is always in place. You're thinking people get away with things and nothing hasn't happened, blah 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 blah. I'm not trying to say wish people bad, but for every action there is a reaction and a response. That's spiritual law. So we cannot escape that. So I try every day to do the right thing. That was, 30 years ago with the movie, do the right thing. That is what we need to do because we know the scale of Ma'at is in place naturally. Nothing goes unnoticed spiritually. You can visualize like maybe two buckets. You put good things on one bucket, in one bucket. If you put a lot of good karma, good juju, whatever the language you want to use, this is what we try to do in teaching our children, our young people, etc. This is what we try to do. And this is what we do. As a people, this is what we do. And so now you come into an environment, or you're brought into an environment that is hostile, unequal. And this is, the sad part, because we could all live in harmony. It's not out of the realm of reason. It could happen. But the way it started, I'm not trying to say it's difficult, but it's a hard road to climb because of the foundation that was laid. And the writing, the lecturing that we done over the years, trying to make sense out of nonsense, trying to make an unjust people just. And this is where we are. And I'm not trying to say, go out in the world, looking for a problem, you will find it. But just our presence, our peace, our loving, kind nature, you know, it would be picked on, pick, because they don't feel the same naturally. I feel the same naturally when I wake up, like, thank you, God, for another day. Thank you, ancestors. I give thanks, you know. Um, but that's not their agenda. Their agenda is pray. Pray on the weak. They tried to pray on the weak. But our ancestors are listening. They are keeping us, they're protecting us, they're guiding us. So don't be confused. Some people, people are not doing the right thing. My child, fill in the blank. I hear everything. The bias, this and that. My child was put in special education, even though they test a little lower, which just does not mean that they are retarded. So not a good word. Cancel. But it's not like they're slow to learn. But I mean, the guy, the Health and Human Services guy, not finding his name right now, but that guy, he's probably like, he's not quite 60, or 70, but he had came up in a one parent household. He had a brother, and he ended up, they told the mother he was slow. Uh, I forgot the language, deliberately slow or something like that. So once he found an interest in a book, he excelled, and he went on to medical school, and he went on to perform one of the Siamese twin separations. And this is what we can do when we're not tagged as something. They're always saying we have delayed cognitive, blah, 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 blah. So children are placed oftentimes in um, a class that is for delayed children that are delayed. They have a delayed response or whatever. It's so unfortunate, because the teacher said, I grew up in a time the teacher told my parents that they sat you by height back in the day, back in the dark ages, so to speak, dark ages. But so I was always tall, so I was sitting in the back, and you know um, they actually noticed that I was having problems with my eyesight. And so they were like, "Oh, Deanne's squinting a lot, so you may need to check her to, a an eye doctor." And I obviously needed glasses, so been wearing them ever since. But this is when teachers would notice and certain things, blah 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 blah. So it wasn't like, quote unquote, the teachers. I'm sure there's some. I'm sure there are hundreds of thousands, but this is the time that teachers notice things other than your grades. They notice behavior or whatever. And so, we really need to monitor what's going on in this society, because the scale of my eye, it's at hand. So don't be a little confused on that, feeling like they have all the luck, they have all the resources, they have no, 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 no. We are the majority. The majority of the planet is black, brown, and other. We started this. We started the whole human race. So just tell your children these types of things, because these are fine books. There's so many books. I have so many books in my home. Thank goodness. I grew up reading a lot of books. And so I want to get people back to reading books. My book, I don't have it right now, a copy, probably in my closet, but so the melanin diet, the melanin diet, the melanin diet. But we have to get back to some of the basics in this lifetime, but don't be fooled. You are the majority. We are the majority on the planet. Okay, on the planet. And the very best of our people was brought here to build this country. And they left the very best. They brought the very best and they left the very best. So there's a lot of reckoning. This country needs to go through an emotional, spiritual, especially with the COVID going on. Like, this is the time. You're trying to make something right. You try to make a wrong right. This is the time. Because a lot of people are checking out of here. A lot of people are checking out of here. Thank goodness I am strong. I stay in the gym. About every other day I go to the gym. I take a lot of supplements. I eat pretty well. But I mean, there've been a few things that I have decided to remove from my intake. And so corn, for example, I was getting a salad pretty much a couple of times a week from a place that it's a new place. It's not too far. And when I looked at the ingredients, I said, no, corn is an allergen. So I didn't have corn in my salad for today, but I added some other things. But, I'm eating well, I'm sleeping well, and, all is well. My house is peaceful, and that's how I like it. I play music, I dance, and I want to encourage everyone to do the same. Have a good diet. Definitely eat well. Definitely, if your sleeping is off, perhaps, if you're menopausal or postmenopausal or perimenopausal, for females, you can contact me if you need any formulas. I'm starting to promote my formulas again. And so some of the formulas are helping with sleep. So I'm just going to give that a little bit of energy right now. But we really need to, this is a time for us to set the reset button, because this country is not choosing to. They can make stuff right, silly, everything you've done to me, blah, 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 that line in The Color Purple. This is where we are. This is exactly where we are. So I mentioned the book, which I wanted, Two Nations, black and white, separate, hostile, unequal. Excellent book. I think I read, it's coming up for me to read this again, because when you read things back in the 90s and before, you're at a different age place. You may be able to wrap your mind around things that you're reading, but this type of book I would like to read again. So I think I'm going to be working on this the next couple of weeks. I'm working on two books at one time. But long video, I just wanted to share that with you. My thoughts on that with COVID-19 is definitely an opportunity to make it right. Make it right, US. Make it right. It's never too late to make it right. And I want my people to stay strong, stay positive, stay encouraged. That's all we know to do. That's our legacy on this planet. And this too shall pass. This too shall pass. So, with that said, I have a wonderful, wonderful evening. Thank you for listening. The Melanin Report 360, the Melanin Report 360, the Melanin Report 360. I'm your host, Deanne, and I hope you have a wonderful, beautiful, exciting night. Take care, and I'll be back tomorrow, Sunday through Thursday. I will try my very best to come on at 7 Mountain Standard Time. Okay, peace.